I'm Brett Johnson, former United States Most Wanted cybercriminal, now good guy, and host of The Brett Johnson Show. Today's episode number 63. Ideology, insiders, and fucking idiots when we come back. Okay, so we are back to today's episode of The Brett Johnson Show, number 63. We're talking about some ideology. How ideology is now mixing with those 98% of cyber criminals out there that are cash motivated. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about insiders. The insider problem that's eating merchants, retailers, banks, every single vertical alive and doing nothing but benefiting organized online criminals. We're going to talk about that, and then we're going to talk about some fucking idiots. That's today's show. And yes, understand that this show is not meant for children's. When I go to upload on the YouTube, for example, it asks, is this show meant for kids? No, shit, no, hell no, it's not. I use a variety of colorful language. You little kiddies should not tune into this at all. When I upload it onto Spotify and on the iTunes, they ask, is it clean or explicit? I mark explicit every single time. I am not a choir member. I talk about things in an adult manner. No, I don't want the kiddies listening to it. Now, that being said, they could probably use some cybersecurity advice. Perhaps, maybe I need to start making some content just for children. I could bring in some stuffed animals and we could have some little fun time as we talk about fraud and crime and prison. Or maybe not. Just want to say that. So, hey, let's go ahead and get started. As we know, we start every show out with some viewer mail coming directly to my inbox. And this is from Ryan. I don't tell people's last names, especially in the case of this email. I have spoken to Ryan a few times on the phone. I have not recently spoken to Ryan, and I think that this email and my response will clear that up as to why I've not. All right, so that being said, let's go ahead and read this. This is from Ryan. Ryan says, and the subject of the email is accountability. So he says, so here's the thing. I have broken the law almost every day for the better part of 7 years. I lie about it every single day. There is no pride in that. There is a lot of shame and guilt, but no pride. I am scared to get help. I am scared of the repercussions of having to admit that I was lying to everyone for all that time. But I want to get better. I have all of the right resources. Psychiatrist, psychologist, job, stable home life, everything except communal support. I am an introvert. I live in a rural area. I am not a gun-toting, Jesus-loving state fan. There are not a lot of opportunities to make friends. The process of lying to my spouse is exhausting. I have had little to no consequences from my actions, and I have made significant strides forward in my life, making it easier to justify my actions. The truth is, I am scared and exhausted. I am scared of letting go of my vice, of having to face reality, to accept the fact that there are points of uncomfortable moments that I have to sit through. My typical modus operandi is to mentally, emotionally check out and compartmentalize whatever is bothering me. I don't need a job. I mean, I need a higher paying job for sure, but I have stable employment in my industry that I desire to break into, which is cyber. My biggest fear is not being able to provide for my children, either by not being able to financially provide or, more importantly, just being a bad father. I am a bit of an asshole, and it is starting to rub off onto my children. I need to get it together now. I did not have the best upbringing. and wrestled with the emotional traumas that stemmed from that. As a result, I cut off all contact with my immediate family in 2017. Since then, I've had no assistance in raising my children, navigating COVID, home buying, career changing, life in general. I feel completely alone. My wife and I have no assistance taking care of our family. We haven't gone on a date in 5 years. There is no one that I trust to watch my children. And even if I could find someone, there is no feasible way that I could afford those services based on my median income. Even so, I find comfort in hearing the honesty that you bring to the table every week. Your soliloquy is thought-provoking and has inspired me to take hold of myself instead of laying down and accepting things as they are. You taught me that there is always a second chance, that there is always a new start. You can change the situation you are in. My problem is that I am ennobled in my addiction to the point where I cannot quit on my own. I recognize that I need a support group to help hold me accountable. I do not do meetings, but your weekly podcasts have helped keep my head level and push me to get the help that I so desperately want, but am too ashamed to seek out. You should be proud of the good that you are doing for the world. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, Ryan. All right, so there's a lot to process here, Ryan. Make no mistake. So I'm putting on my glasses because I want to reference part of your email too. Before we get to that, the first thing is you're not telling me anything that I didn't already know about you committing crime. Now, we had spoken on the phone, and you had said, I'm not breaking the law. You had fed me that, I guess, thinking that I would believe that. Now, just because I didn't say I didn't believe that doesn't mean that, I was buying every single thing that you said there. I will let people go on. And meanwhile, I'm saying in the back of my head, bullshit, which is pretty much what I was saying. I didn't believe for a second that you weren't still breaking the law. And that's one of the reasons that I have not really continued to engage. I want you to understand that, man. Someone reaches out to me that's a criminal or a former criminal or somebody that wants to stop. I will absolutely have that call with you. I will absolutely talk with you. And when I say I want to help you, I mean that. But when it becomes evident that you're not helping yourself, that you're feeding me a line of shit while you continue along your way thinking that I'm buying that, at that point, I'm going to disengage. All right? And here's why. And that your email has a lot of these signs in there that tell me that there's problems with you really accepting responsibility and accountability. Okay? Even though your subject is accountability, I'm not getting that you're being accountable or responsible. You have to own your actions and your choices. Nobody else is responsible for that. Nobody else, no other thing is at fault for that other than you. Okay, understand that. Now, the next show I'm doing today is, ideology, insiders, idiots. The next show next week is about CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. And I hope that you watch that because we're going to talk about some of that right now. You got to understand that your choices are what determines your future. If you don't like the life that you are living right now, your choices are what have led to that. And your choices can change that. Okay, now you're feeling that, you've got an addiction, that you're boxed in, that you've got no other choice. That's a feeling I'm getting from this email that you sent. But understand that you can change that thought process. You don't have to sit there and wallow in self-pity, saying, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to get out of this. I want to change. I want to change. Well, if you really, truly want to change, then you can stand your ass up and change. Okay? Understanding that it's very comfortable to wallow in that self-pity. It's very comfortable to look for things to blame other than yourself for the current lot in life that you have. And you do blame other things. You said, you admit, I've got all the right resources, got a job, got a stable home life, you've got people that care about you. But then you come right in right after that and say, I'm an introvert. I live in a rural area. I'm not a gun-toting, Jesus-loving state college fan. There are not a lot of opportunities to make friends. The process of lying is exhausting. And you say all this stuff. So what you're saying is, at one moment you say, I'm tired of this stuff. But then you follow it back almost immediately with reasons why you can't enact the change that you want to enact. So you're kind of justifying, you are justifying these criminal activities. And how do I know that? I'm no friggin' different. I did the same bullshit, and I got to check myself sometimes. So here you are, you're saying you need that support group. All right. And hey, I grant you, the Brett Johnson Show, we are absolutely a support group, but we're also the group that doesn't, we don't really accept bullshit either. All right. We're going to tell it like it is. When I got out of prison, 2011, I was still breaking the law. Fact. All right. It wasn't until I violated probation that I had that coming to Jesus moment, when I started to, when I really finally understood I don't want this life. And at that point is when all that cognitive behavioral therapy started to really hit. All right. Now, I come across as an extrovert, and I've said it before in interviews that I'm really an introvert, but I fight that being an introvert by being overly extroverted. Okay. What I would suggest to you is much the same path that I took. If you do live in that rural area, if you don't have any friends, family members, and associates you can talk to, then get your ass on LinkedIn. Get your ass, I like LinkedIn personally, that's where I did it, and surround yourself with people that you would like to be like. Okay? The idea is that you surround yourself with people that are better than you, and that starts as kind of a fake support group. But guess what? You fake it until you make it. It starts as a fake support group, but that fake support group becomes real. From that, you'll get a real support group that will surround you and help you look out and take care of you. And I see that you make good comments on the social platforms that you're on. You need to be active on that. Surround yourself with those people. That will be your support group. Now, you've got a wife and you've got kids there. And you tell me in your email, the truth is I'm scared and exhausted. The process of lying to my wife is exhausting. I don't want to be a bad father. I want to be able to provide for my kids, blah, blah, blah. You say that, but your actions don't demonstrate that. So at the end of the day, what you're actually doing is you're saying a lot of stuff, but you ain't doing a lot of stuff. You're continuing on with your criminal activities because you're choosing to. You got a job, you got people you care about. Now, I know you've watched me before, you've seen my story and what I've said on several interviews and presentations. I've said that, hey, when you leave prison, they tell you, get yourself a job, get you something you care about, and you won't recidivate again. Well, you've got a job. No, it's not a perfect job. It's not. Yeah, everyone could always use more money. I make a pretty good living. I'm going to tell you right now, I could use more money. I think everybody's like that, except maybe Elon fucking Musk that's out there, okay? So everyone could use more money, but you got a job. You got a wife that loves you. You got kids that love you. Every single day that you break the law, and you say you do it every day, every single day that you break the law, you are really saying that you don't love your kids and your wife as much as you love those activities that you're committing. You're putting those activities above them, and you're choosing those above them every single day. You would rather do that than have the love of your family. I did that exact same thing. Okay. That exact same thing. You've got to, that's where we go back to this accountability and responsibility. You got to own that. You got to own that. You've got to be able to say it loud and say it proud that that's the man that you are, that you would rather do that than have your wife and have your kids, because no, you've not been caught yet. Shit, you may not be caught. But you continue to be the liar. And as you continue to lie, your relationship continues to degrade. Your wife and kids, they know, at least subconsciously, that something is off. And once they know that something is off, that void continues to build and get wider until finally it's so wide it can't be bridged. And you have that gulf in there where maybe you and your wife are always talking about very superficial things instead of things that matter, because there's nothing else to talk about. You're completely foreign to her, and she is completely separate from you, because you would rather commit crime than have family. Okay. I just think you need to understand that. You need to take accountability. You need to take responsibility. And I know that you say that you are, but your email doesn't indicate that. Your email doesn't indicate that at all. There is no feasible way that I could afford services based on my median income. You say, I feel completely alone. My wife and I have no assistance taking care of our family. Okay. I get you. All right. And we haven't gone on a date in 5 years. There is no one that I trust to watch my children. I'm hearing excuses. That's what I'm hearing. Shit, if nothing else, Netflix and chill. You can have a date at the house. I don't know how old your kids are, but you can have a date at the house, man. Okay. Or shit, even better, take the kids out and have a family date. It's okay to take kids out. I don't give a shit if you have to go for ice cream or matinee movie or what have you. Hell, I've seen Mario Brothers twice. That's a great family movie. So, I mean, it really is. Your email strikes me as somebody who you kind of want to maybe change, but you want to make sure that the change comes as no hardship or anything else like that. The truth of the matter is that you say that you don't want to be viewed as that liar. You are that liar. Okay, you are. I was too. Okay, you are that liar. And every single day that you continue with your activities and hiding it, you continue to be that liar. Okay, so is that the person that you want to be? Is that the person you want your children to know you as? Okay, because maybe at some point it does come out. Maybe at some point you do get that knock at the door with law enforcement wanting to talk to you. And I'm going to tell you, when law enforcement talks to you and your wife and kids are there, law enforcement, they ain't about pulling you off in a little corner and having a private chat with you. They're about having a very vocal chat with you that the wife and kids hear as well, because that embarrasses you, and a lot of truth starts to come to the top at that point, from the wife, from the kids, and from you. So these are all choices. These are all choices that really you have to decide what you're going to do. You said you cut off all contact with immediate family in 2017. I don't know why you did that, but as long as it was for a healthy reason, I support that. Okay. You have family now. You've got a wife, you've got children. I would urge you to build you that support group. It doesn't have to be a personal support group, but to build you that support group. All right. There may not be any type of groups in the area that you could attend, but they are online. So build a support group, start doing healthy things, start surrounding yourself with the type of people that you want to be. All right. The job, I'm going to tell you, man, I mentioned that I wanted to plug you on my feed and everything else, and I want to do that. I'm not going to do that when I still think that you're out there breaking the law. I won't do that. I simply won't. All right. I'll be here for you. I'll talk to you, things like that. But, as long as you're the guy that's got that cognitive dissonance about breaking law and not stopping, that's a problem. I've mentioned before that the path to recovery is never a straight line. There's always backsliding. But as long as you're continuing that forward momentum is what counts. You're not continuing that forward momentum. You're telling me that every single day, second sentence, I have broken the law almost every day for the better part of 7 years. So you're not going forward. You're right where you are. All right. You've got to make the decision to do that. You've got to decide if your family, your wife and children are more important than whatever trinkets that you're stealing. Okay. Because I don't know if you're stealing money or not. I know you're stealing some trinkets, but you've got to decide what's important. You've got to put your priorities first. You've got to be able to accept that responsibility. You got to cut through the bullshit in this email, the excuses of I'm an introvert, I live rurally, I'm scared, I don't want people to find out I was a liar. Well, how do you fix that? You be truthful. All right. When I turned my life around, when I was in the process, that first arc, because it comes in waves, man. That first arc, I would go through the house and I would point out things to my wife and my kids. That's stolen. Next thing you know, that shit's gone. And I would buy the replacement legitimately. So I would give it away. I'd take it to Goodwill, whatever the hell, the stolen stuff. And then I would order a legitimate replacement item because I didn't want any bullshit around me that I had stolen. Okay. I didn't want that shit. So, you've got to make these definite steps. All right. If you are that criminal, it's got to come out at some point, dude. You got to have that conversation with your wife at some point. Yeah, should I have been doing this? I'm sorry. That's how you start to bridge that void, that gap. That's how you start to reestablish a relationship. Is how you do it. At least in my book, is what I think. Look, I truly wish nothing but the best for you. More importantly, I wish nothing best but for your wife and children because they do not deserve what's being done to them. They are victims of your actions right now. Even though they may not know you're committing crime, they are still victims of your actions. You got to own that, man. You got to own that. If you don't want to be victimizing your own children and your wife, you got to come to terms. You got to accept responsibility. You got to be accountable for this stuff. You got to be able to go to your spouse and say, hey, this is the bullshit I've been doing. I want to stop this. Help me out. You got to be willing to do that. I'm not saying turn yourself into the cops. I'm not that far-fetched. But I am saying, hey, you got to start being truthful with people. Okay? That's what you got to do. I like the hell out of you. I wish nothing but the best for you. But you've got to be able to dismiss the bullshit and the cognitive dissonance. You've got to be responsible. You've got to be accountable. All right? Moving right along, because I'm just going to keep preaching the same thing. If I don't, move along. Ryan, buddy, again, please. Okay? Please. You know what you got to do. You got a job. You got somebody you care about. Yeah, things could be better. Things could be better. That takes work. It doesn't happen overnight. But you've got to make the goddamn decision to do that. And that means an actionable decision. That doesn't just mean sitting back and saying, I hope I want to change. I hope I can. You got to be the change. All right. So please. All right. That being said, let's move right along. All right. So we are back to the Brett Johnson Show, episode number 63, Ideology, Insiders, and Fucking Idiots. And hey, if you're watching the video, you may notice there has been a wardrobe change. I'm no longer in the same shirt. Well, what happened is after the second segment, we had a wardrobe malfunction. That's right. A man boob was exposed. Okay, maybe not. Maybe I just took a break after the second segment, and that break lasted for 2 days. That's probably what happened. Nowhere near as sexy or disturbing as the first story. So go with whichever story you prefer. That being said, let's talk about the subject of today's show. Ideology, insiders, and then the idiots that are out there. Talking about ideology. People who've listened to me have listened to me say this before. There are only really 3 reasons why cybercrime is committed. You've got status, cash, and then ideology. What do I mean by status? Well, understand that some of these criminal communities are now millions of members large. To give you an example of how cybercrime has grown over the years, when Shadow Crew gets shut down, 2004, we ended with 4,000 members. Now, fast forward to 2017. The largest criminal group on the planet was called Alpha Bay, ran by Alexander Kazaa. He gets caught, federal government shuts the site down. That site ends with 240,000 members. Now, fast forward 2 more years to 2019. Just a dark web marketplace called Black Market gets shut down. It ends with 1.15 million members. All of that pre-pandemic. Now, during the pandemic, these fraud numbers exploded. Why? Well, because the government, in their infinite wisdom, they decided to give every fraudster that was out there all the money they could possibly steal. And they did it. And those numbers exploded at the same time. But it's not only that. Over the years, cybercrime as a platform has evolved to the point that someone who wants to engage in criminal activity doesn't have to know any specific dynamic of that crime. They don't have to know how to protect themselves. They don't have to know how to spoof phone numbers or run drop addresses or spoof emails or use SOX5 proxies or anything else like that. Everything is off the shelf. It's done for them. All right. So the sophistication is no longer in that specific criminal. The sophistication is now in the platform itself, as cybercrime is a service. So you've got CAAS these days, cybercrime as a service. You all talk about security as a service. Get bent. Where the money is cybercrime as a service. And why do I say that? Well, if cybercrime were a world economy, a country, cybercrime would have the 3rd largest economy on the planet. So you want to know who's winning? All you got to do is take a look at the numbers, take a look at the money, and you figure out pretty quickly that, yes, crime does absolutely pay. Now, going into these motivations, if you can do something that no one else within your criminal community can do, then you gain the respect, the status among your criminal peers, and that respect equates to profit. So that status means a lot. You know, if you can build and deploy ransomware, if you can launch DDoS attacks, if you can build skimmers, if you can use stolen credit card details to defraud Amazon and Apple when no one else on the planet can do that, then you gain the respect of every single person in that criminal environment, and that equates to profit. So that's status. Now, most attacks that are out there, most cybercrime that's out there, easy enough to figure out the motivation. You've got people that are trying to profit, people that are trying to put money in their pockets. So that's simple enough. But the 3rd reason, ideology. So think about this for a second. Ideology is actually the most important motivation that's out there. Now, do you think that you might be attacked because you have a different political opinion than someone else? Well, if you don't think that, you've probably not been watching the news for the past few years. Tell you what, I wake up every single morning and I tune into Fox News and CNN so I can start my day off pissed off at everybody. Yes, you can and will be attacked because you have a different political opinion or because you've simply pissed someone off. Now, here's what to understand, all right? You have to understand that there are really only 7 different types of attackers online. So those types of attackers are criminals, like I used to be. You've got nation states, you've got terrorists, you've got hacktivists, you've got insiders, like we're going to talk about in the second segment. You've got hackers for hire, and then you've got script kiddies. Now, if you look at the attacker, you can pretty well peg what their motivation is. For example, criminals. What are we looking for? Well, we're looking to profit. We're looking to put cash in the pocket. Nation states, what's their motivation? Well, typically it's ideology, unless you're looking at North Korea. And then it's ideology mixed in with cash-based attacks too, because North Korea finances 1/3 of their nuclear program through cybercrime, specifically through stealing cryptocurrency. 1/3 of North Korea's nuclear program is financed through cybercrime. Think about that. China. Why does China attack? Well, China attacks because of ideology. China also likes to steal other countries and companies' IP. So they're looking at a mixture of ideology and cash-based as well. If you're looking at terrorists, why do terrorists attack? Well, that's typically ideology. Activists, that's ideology. Insiders. Insiders gets a little interesting. Why would an insider choose to commit a crime? Well, and we're going to talk about this in depth in the second segment, but it could be because they're pissed off at the company, the employer, because they're scared of losing their job and they're feeling that pressure and they think that they need to do something in order to put money in pocket before they lose. There's several different reasons. We're going to address that in the second segment of today's show. Then you've got hackers for hire. What they're motivated by is actually in the title, for hire. They're looking to make money. And then you've got script kiddies themselves that, they fall under the hackers for hire because they don't have any real skill levels. So they buy everything ready-made to launch whatever attack for whatever reason. And a script kiddie can be status-based. They're trying to impress their criminal peers. It can be ideologically based. They're mad at someone and trying to attack that company that they're mad at or that individual that they're angry with. Or it could be simply to put cash in pocket. So those are the 7 different types. We'll go over them again. Criminals, nation states, terrorists, hacktivists, insiders, hackers for hire, script kiddies. And the motivations are status, cash, ideology. Now, here's the interesting thing. If you know why someone is attacking you and you know who that attacker is, then you understand the persistence of that attack. For example, a cash-based attack, a criminal that is simply out there trying to attack you because they're looking to put cash in pocket. That is a low-hanging fruit attack. That is the criminal looking for the easiest access that gives them the largest return on that criminal investment. All right, so it's low-hanging fruit, and that's not a very persistent type of attack. That's a type of attack that if someone just does the base minimum of security, typically that criminal will find an easier, softer target to hit. All right, so it's not a very persistent type of attack compared to a status-based attack. You're trying at that point to impress your criminal peers. So you're not looking for easy security. You're not looking for the hardest security in the world as either. You're looking for something that you can do that gains the respect of the peers in your criminal communities and your environments there. So it's a much more persistent type of attack, but it's not an attack that lasts forever. Whereas an ideologically based attack is exactly that. That is an attacker that is looking to attack you specifically. And that type of attack, it does not matter the amount of security that you have. It does not matter how much money you've got. The only thing that matters is it's you that they're angry with. And that is an attack which never, never, never goes away. So it's important to understand that, because if you understand who's attacking you, why they're attacking you, and then the persistence of that attack, you know how to design security around that. So it's important to understand these things, okay? Now, the reason I'm talking about ideology today, most attacks are cash-based attacks, but we're starting to see a mixture of cash-based attacks being influenced by ideology, which is kind of interesting because Donald Creasy, and again, we'll handle him in the second segment, but he does this thing called the fraud triangle. And he says that for insider fraud to take place, that you have to have pressure, opportunity, and then justification. That justification matters. All right. So I talked to a lot of people, and I've had a lot of people over the years that tend to call any and every criminal out there a sociopath. That is the farthest thing from the truth ever. No, there are very few real sociopaths that are out there. Typically, a criminal tries to justify their crimes. They in order to commit the crime, they have to convince themselves that they are a good individual. They have to have, they have to say, well, online I'm an asshole, but in the real world, I'm a good guy. And you see this in TV series, you see this in American Greed, all these other things about criminals who go out and they deal drugs, like Frank Lucas, the American Gangster, and all that. They commit these crimes, and yet they give to the community. You saw John Gotti did that all the time. He would give to his community. He would give to charities. And the reason you do that is it helps you justify your actions. You're able to tell yourself, yes, I'm doing this over here, but in reality, I'm a good guy. My justifications when I was committing crime was, well, I did it for my sister. I did it for my family, for my wife. I did it for my stripper girlfriend. Those were the justifications that I used, and I believed those justifications because you can't just do lip service. You have to believe the justifications that you're putting out. And yes, that's cognitive dissonance, but that doesn't make it any less real. You believe your justifications, all right? And that's important, because if you can't justify the crimes in many instances, you won't commit those types of crimes. So the human mind looks to justify. And again, that's why we're talking about ideology, because we've got this thing called the Ukraine war. I don't really care which side that you're on. Now, I support the Ukraine, but I want people to understand, I think the Ukraine is horrible. They are horribly corrupt, and all those billions of dollars that everyone's sending over to Ukraine, I am positive, absolutely 100% positive, that there's a whole shitload of people that are lining their pockets with the profits that are coming over, okay? Not only that, but I know for a fact that the amount of cybercrime that comes out of the Ukraine should not be dismissed. And not only that, but the Ukraine government protects its cybercriminals. They protect, they harbor, they foster them. They don't really send them out for extradition. They don't do that kind of stuff. Now, they have extradited a few people, but their numbers are very small. The Ukraine is a horribly corrupt government. Now, I said I support them. I don't like Russia any better, probably much less. As a matter of fact, I go to bed every single night saying my prayers. Dear Lord, baby Jesus, if you will please, oh Lord, just strike down Vladimir the Impaler Putin. I will tithe, oh my Lord. I will show up every Sunday, oh Lord, have mercy, I will. I will do whatever you want to, Lord. Just please call him home to your bosom. Strike that son of a bitch down today. I do not like Russia either. I support the Ukraine over Russia. But here's the problem. The problem is that both governments have they've said, hey, for all you hacktivists out there, for all you criminals out there, for anybody who really supports us, whether that be the Ukraine or Russia, for anyone who really supports us, please attack our enemies. So now you're seeing that justification, I support the Ukraine, or I support Russia, is now coming into play amongst cash-based attackers. The 98th percentile of criminal or cyber criminals that are out there are looking at simply profiting. But now they've got a justification of, hey, I support the Ukraine. Hey, I support Russia. So I'm going to look at attacking those targets that are now my enemy. So what does that actually equate to? What that actually equates to is now you've got a difference in the types of targets that have historically been targeted by those cash-based criminals. So cash-based criminals, who do we, because I used to be one, who do we look to attack? Well, we love to attack fintech. We love to attack financial institutions, retail merchants. We attack any specific type of vertical that can profit us, that can give us information, access, data, or cash. That's what we're always looking for, one or a combination of those four things: information, access, data, cash. All right. And because of that, we have tended to stay in our lane. We've looked at retail merchants, we've looked at government benefits, we've looked at financial institutions, fintechs, crypto, things like that. But because now you've got this influence of ideology, of state-based ideology coming into play in those environments, what's happening? Now the types of targets are changing. Now you've got, in Sweden, for example, the rail system gets attacked with a DDoS attack. You've got infrastructure that's being looked at. You've got hospitals that are being looked at. Here's the secret to all of this, all right? So someone who's influenced ideologically by Russia or the Ukraine, they are looking, ideally, you want to attack those government offices, those government agencies in whatever country is supporting the group, the team that you're not, playing for. The problem is that those government agencies tend to have their networks in hard containers. Yeah, they're not cloud-based. They tend to be in hard containers. And the thing about that is they tend to be much more secure. So here's what people don't understand, and I've spoken about this before. 56% of companies have experienced a breach due to third-party access. Most companies have no idea how many third parties are accessing their system. Of those third parties accessing their system, those third parties are never vetted. So while those government agencies are in hard containers, guess what? All those other verticals that attach to those government agencies, hospitals, railways, electric grid, water companies, all these other verticals, they are not in hard containers. They are in soft containers. A lot of them are cloud-based. And guess what? A lot of the security there is not nearly as good. So the attacker hits the softer target, understanding that if you get access to the soft target, it will allow you entry and access to the harder target. So you look for what do criminals do? We attack, we look at the lowest hanging fruit, easiest access that gives the largest return on that criminal investment. So instead of going toward those hard container types of targets, you go toward the softer target. You hit them with ransomware. You hit them with DDoS attacks. You hit them with whatever, hoping to profit at the same time that you're fulfilling that ideological justification that either Russia or the Ukraine has given you. All right, it gets worse. Because most cyber criminals are lovers, not warriors. We don't fight a lot. Hell, we don't even really love a lot. But if you had to pick between one of the two, we sure as hell are not fighters. We're more lovers. Criminals both in the Ukraine and Russia are not wanting to fight. All right? I won't call them pacifists. I'll call them cowards. So what you've seen over the years, since when I ran Shadow Crew and we partnered with the Ukrainians and Russians and things like that, what happens when Shadow Crew falls is, at that point in time, things were very, we had a union between the Russian speakers and the Ukrainian speakers and the English speakers. We all worked together and we all shared our environments together. But when Shadow Crew goes down, and then some of the other English-speaking forums go down right after that, because of law enforcement, the Russian-speaking groups, they started to understand that, hey, these Americans are fucking idiots. They talk too much. It's very easy to identify these people. So we're going to have the great cybercrime schism. We're going to have just our own sites, our own forums, our own marketplaces, and that's where we're going to do business. If any English speaker wants to buy something from us, they are going to have to come to us. We are not going to be in their environments anymore. Now, that has been like that up until recently with the Ukraine war. And not only that, but what you could also do is, if you knew who the attackers were, just by looking at a map, you could pretty well figure what the crime was that was being committed. For example, in the United States, you've got a lot of money laundering. You've got a lot of credit card CNP fraud, card not present fraud, where you're buying shit online with stolen credit card details, stuff like that. You don't really have a lot of that over in the Eastern Bloc of Europe because they are in a geographic area that restricts what types of crimes they can commit. So what I'm saying is that at the same time, if you knew where that criminal was, you could pretty well peg the types of crime that was being committed. There's a reason that you get a lot of botnet attacks, a lot of more sophisticated attacks out of the Ukraine and Russian types of areas, because they are not able to really do a lot of the types of fraud that people can do in the United States. So if you knew the geographic area, you could ping the type of crime that was happening as well at that point. All right. Now, back to the lovers and fighters. Cyber criminals are lovers, not fighters. They did not want to fight either in Russia or in the Ukraine. So now you've seen these criminals that are moving out of areas. So now it's becoming much harder to determine what type of crime is pinging what geographic area, because now you've got these criminals that have moved to various parts of the world. They've moved to the United States, to Canada, South America, Europe, the UK. They've spread all over the place. So they've become more intertwined with those criminal environments that used to be just specifically in those types of areas. All right. So pay attention there. But it gets even a little bit more worse than that. Because of the Ukraine war, you've seen a lot of the non-English speaking forums and marketplaces that are becoming more and more like ghost towns, because those people are not really working together anymore. They're schisming out. They're moving. They're fleeing the areas because they don't want to die. That being said, you must have, and I've spoken about this many times, you must have a main type of communication channel or setup where you know where to gain your information, what dealers are still viable, what targets are out there, where the tools are. You have to have those communication channels set up. If you don't have that, you're not going to be able to profit at the end of the day committing cybercrime. So now we're seeing these non-English speaking people who used to be in these non-English markets and forums, they are now migrating back to English speaking channels. So now what's happening? We're actually kind of seeing, it's really interesting. All right. It's really interesting that we're kind of seeing a renaissance of cybercrime. Now you're seeing all these groups mixing in together. You're seeing all these criminals that are dispersing, where you can no longer tell the geographic area that specific crime is originating from. And at the same time, everyone's starting to work together again. Because of the pandemic, you've got the numbers that have blown through the roof. Because of the war, you've got a brand new justification. Ideology: support our country, attack our enemies. Now you're looking at a much softer target. And criminals learned during the pandemic what those soft targets could mean. Because before the pandemic, most criminals did not attack government agencies or look for government benefits. But because of the pandemic, because the government was so desperate to get these stimulus programs out, they put them out with no security in place whatsoever. It opened criminals' eyes to the profit potential of hitting softer targets, of how easy that is. So what are we going to see? Well, what we're going to see, what we've been seeing, is an increase in attacks against infrastructure, against hospitals, against government agencies, and we're going to continue to see that. So just thought I'd share that with you. I'm actually traveling. So tomorrow I fly to Columbus, Ohio, where on Tuesday, I give a presentation for the ACFE Ohio chapter. They are an outstanding group. If you're not a member of the ACFE, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners, if you're not a member, by God, you should be. They do outstanding work. And that's not a plug. I actually mean that. After I get through that presentation, I go to the airport in Columbus, Ohio, and immediately catch a flight to Stockholm, Sweden, where I am going to talk at the Nordic IT Conference. I'm keynoting the next day, and we're talking about how ideology is influencing these criminal types of attackers. So that's what we're doing. It should be a very good presentation, a good day. it should scare the hell out of everyone. I wanted to start today's show with talking about ideology, kind of give a glimpse of what's happening in the criminal underground, how things are changing right now, and what that means. And what it actually means is a lot of pain for targets that have not really gotten their Security Act in place. They've never really had to worry about cybercrime before, about those types of criminal attackers. Yes, we have seen in the past that hospitals and schools and things like that have been hit, but now they're going to be hit en masse by attackers who know what they're doing. They've not, these verticals have not prepared for that. So my anticipation is a lot of pain until they get their act together and institute proper security. So just thought I'd share that. No, I don't have the answers for that. I don't. I've talked about this before, that the threat landscape that's out there tends to be established not because of zero-day attacks or unknown vulnerabilities, but 90% of every single attack uses known exploits. It's not the shit we don't know about. It's the shit we do know about, the shit we've been told about for years that we've not done anything about, that creates that threat landscape. So you know what the solution is? The solution is get off your ass and institute proper security, because you know what that is. And with that, we're going to move right along to our second segment, talking about insiders. Donald Creasy, I just gave a plug for the ACFE, the Association of Certified Fraud Examiners. This guy named Donald Creasy, he creates this thing called the fraud triangle. And what he says is he says, hey, for insider fraud, for an employee of your organization to commit fraud, three things have to take place. And he breaks it down as a triangle. He says, hey, that employee has to feel some sort of pressure. They have to be scared of losing their job, or maybe somebody some family member needs a medical service, operations, something like that. But there has to be some sort of pressure that's going on with that employee. The employee has to have some sort of opportunity. They can't commit that crime if they don't have the opportunity to commit the crime. So they have to feel pressure. They have to have opportunity. And then the third leg of that fraud triangle says that specific employee then has to be able to justify their crime. Yes, I'm doing this, but my employer deserves it. They treat me like hell. They treat me like shit. I'm going to get even with them. Or, I'm about to lose my job. I can't pay the bills. I have to do something to get money. They have to be able to justify that crime. If all three things don't take place, that insider fraud, that insider crime won't happen. Easy enough, right? And today, we see a variety of different types of insider frauds or insider crimes happening. We see it all across the place. We see the traditional insider fraud. You've got the bookkeeper at church who decides that he or she is going to start stealing church funds. That's insider fraud. You've got Kelly Alexander Pope did a documentary film called All the Queen's Horses about this fucknut up in Ohio, I think, or something like that. Ohio, Indiana, or Illinois, that decides that she works in some sort of state agency, and she steals so much money. She lives a double life. She comes to work every single day, and on the side, she is this huge ass horse owner that competes, has these horse farms and everything else, all paid for with stolen money from the government, from that state government. And if you've not seen the documentary, it's been a few years since I've seen it. If you've not seen it, watch it. It's outstanding. Kelly Pope also has a new book on fraud out. You might want to read that. I have a chapter in it. I didn't even know it. I've got a chapter in it. So it's well worth reading as well. Talking about insiders, though, I'm going to, because I find this very interesting, I'm going to share my screen while we talk about insider fraud. So this is Telegram that we are on right here. Okay. And the Telegram channel that we are on is the Scorpion Refund store list. And I just opened it up. And as soon as I opened it up, of course, we've got, here we go. Here's a Sam's Club insider. So this guy, Scorpion, he's got an insider that works at Sam's Club. So what you can do, you can go to your Sam's Club, You can buy up to 5 items, no limit on the dollar amount per item. You can then get to keep your items and get a refund for the items that you are keeping within 24 hours. And guess what? It won't kill your account. You can still keep your main Sam's Club account. What do you owe the insider? Well, it's going to cost you a minimum of $200. It's actually 35% or 40% of the fee if it's $2,500 or below. 35% of whatever you're trying to defraud Sam's of if it's over $2,500. And he makes a note. He says, hit and repeat for profits. Orders over $3,500 will cancel, so do $3,400 and under. And he even gives you a hint. Think Apple items, idiots. And, of course, the Sam's Club membership is required as well. So I'm talking about insiders. Here we've got a Sam's Club insider. All right. And that is simply just one insider that the Scorpion channel has access to. Let's see what we got here. Here we go. Here is a Walmart insider over on the Scorpion channel. And here it says, Walmart insider refunds, no price limit, no item limit. So, hey, highest dollar item you want to get, you can get as many items as you want to get. It takes 3 to 5 days to get your money back, and you get to keep the items. Look, the items that you buy, they have to be sold and shipped by Walmart only. Apple items do work because, in case anyone didn't know out there, Apple and Apple items are the easiest stolen items to resell. They easily, and I mean all day, every day, just as quick as you can do it, will bring 80% of retail on whatever the item is. He says, check out with PayPal or Apple Pay for most success. And please note, insider can disappear in an instant, so don't order if you're not okay with possibly having to return. So what he's saying is, he says, hey, this insider, yeah, we got ourselves an insider. We got ourselves one. But you know, these insiders, they could be pegged at any moment in time. They could be gotten, and then, you know, you got an order that's going through. You ain't going to be able to get your money back. You're going to have to load up those Apple items that you thought you was going to be able to profit with, and you're going to have to take them back to Walmart and get your money back. If you ain't willing to do that, don't sign on to this insider, because an insider can be gone in an instant. So that's what's going on. And I'm going to show you some more insiders on Telegram in just a second. But what's interesting is when I was committing cybercrime, we had a couple of insiders. We had a guy at one of these credit card processing centers over in India. He got his ass popped doing the CVV1 cash outs. Back then, we were doing all these phishing campaigns. We were getting credit and debit card details with the pins. In order for you to encode that on the back of a counterfeit card and then take it to an ATM and pull cash out of that ATM, you have to have complete track 2 data. So track 2 on, for those who don't know, on the back of your credit or debit card, there are, on that magnetic stripe, there are 3 data tracks. The first data track is the customer's name. Second data track is the card number / 16-digit algorithm out beside of that. Third data track is called indiscriminate data. No one buys or no one uses it, all right? What's bought and sold is the second data track. It's called the dump, okay? So we were getting the card number. We were getting the PIN. We were not getting complete track 2 information. In order, and you have to have that in order to encode it on the back of a card, take it, and cash it out. What we quickly found out, though, is that no bank, and I mean no bank on the planet, had implemented the hash. Meaning, for track 2, we had the card number. You could put a / and any 16 digits out beside of that, it would encode. You could take it to an ATM and start pulling cash out. That was the CVV1 hack, okay? So, and we ate them alive on that. Before that came into place, most people were simply using stolen credit card details to buy laptops and things like that. A good carder is what we called ourselves. We're carders. A good carder could profit $30,000 to $40,000 a month committing those types of crime. You'd get someone's stolen credit card details. You'd hit Apple, Sony, something like that. You'd get your laptops in, and then you'd resell those laptops on eBay at 80% of retail, and you would profit $30,000 to $40,000 a month just doing that. When that CVV1 came into play, that $30,000 to $40,000 a month became $30,000 to $40,000 a day. So we had an insider at a credit processing center in India. And this idiot, for those who haven't been overseas and traveling, a lot of countries, when you are traveling overseas and you want to use an ATM, that ATM, you walk into a room, the door locks behind you, you complete your transaction. Once you complete your transaction, the door unlocks and you leave. It's a secured environment. Well, this guy was doing the CVV1, using stolen debit cards to profit. He goes into the room. He had been doing this for a few weeks, so law enforcement was looking for his ass. So he goes into the room. He swipes the card, he inserts the card into the ATM. It sends a signal to law enforcement and to the bank officials saying, hey, this son of a bitch is at it again. They lock the door, and they don't let the son of a bitch out until law enforcement comes and gets him, arrest him. That's what can happen to insiders very quickly. We had an insider that worked at the Knoxville, Tennessee DMV, and that insider would supply real driver's licenses for $600 a piece. Outstanding. I mean, it sounds outstanding until you understand that at some point that insider's job is going to end because of fraud. And when they catch that insider for fraud, they're going to look at every single transaction that that insider did, and they're going to flag them all and investigate them all. So, of course, you could get a real driver's license from this insider at the DMV, but 6 months later, which is what it took, 6 months later, when that person got caught, all those driver's licenses are now useless. You're an idiot if you continue to drive on those. That's what this guy's saying with this Walmart insider. These insiders can disappear at any moment in time. Now, going by what we're talking about with Donald Creasy and the fraud triangle, talking about this Walmart insider, and let's go through here again and share screen so that, and I actually talked about this on LinkedIn as well. So you've got a Walmart insider here. What type of, and according to Donald Creasy, for this insider fraud to take place, that employee has to feel pressure, has to have opportunity, and then has to be able to justify their crimes. So what type of pressure could that Walmart employee be feeling? Well, I would say that, fear of the impending recession. If you want to call it impending, I actually think that the only people who think that a recession is not in place is the Fed and the current administration. Everyone else on the planet, I believe, get the idea that, hey, yeah, we're in a recession. The economy is going to shit right now. So you've got pressure of the economy. You've got all of these layoffs that are going around. So it could be fear of losing your job, fear of not being able to pay the bills, make your mortgage, put food on the table, buy the kids' birthday or Christmas gifts or whatever. That could be part of the pressure. It could be anger at the employer. Maybe Walmart treats their employees like shit. And we've heard stories like that in the past. So it could be that. They could be angry at the employer. So you've got pressure. What type of opportunity? Well, this person is more than likely just a customer service agent, all right? May even be working remotely from their home. A lot of the times, this is what people don't understand. Customer service tends to get a lot of access in order to do these things. Just about a year and a half ago, talking about refunding fraud. Refunding fraud is where someone goes into a store or orders an item. They get the item, and then they trick the merchant into thinking that they either didn't receive the item or that they're going to return the item for a refund. Meanwhile, that criminal gets to keep the item, and they get the refund money back. So about a year and a half ago, you could hit Target for $20,000 worth of product, and who was approving that were the customer service agents. It took one customer service agent to approve a $20,000 refund, fraudulent refund, through Target. For example, today at Wayfair, I think that number is like $150,000. $150,000. And it only takes one person to sign off on that refund. So that's what's going on with Walmart here. It only takes one person to sign off on a Walmart refund. As long, here's what you're going to see. Notice it says on this, it says the minimum order is $2,000. It doesn't give a maximum order, but I would imagine that the maximum order was somewhere around $3,000 to $5,000. Okay, is what I would imagine. What you see is when these merchants and retailers start to put in security, those dollar amounts will fluctuate. So Target will go from $20,000 to $3,000. And that will last a few months until they get lazy and think the problem has gone away. And then all of a sudden it shoots up to $15,000. So these are the issues that go on. Okay. And this is what we're talking about with insider fraud. So the pressure could be the economy, could be anger at the employee. It could be any number of things for pressure, but the pressure is there. The opportunity, more than likely a customer service agent who has quote unquote keys to the kingdom. And then what is the justification? Well, I'm not going to be able to put food on the table. I've got to do this. I'm about to lose my job. Have you not seen what the economy is doing? My employer deserves this. They can't afford it. So the justification is there as well. Okay. Now, what's really interesting here, let's go back out and we're going to search for any. All right. Okay. Here we go. This is from the AIO crime channel. All right. And here is the ad. An innie is an insider. So they're saying that, hey, we've got T-Mobile innies right now, tap for your swap. So what that actually means is that if you're trying to do a SIM swap, if you're trying to take over someone's phone, so someone who's got a Coinbase account, a lot of cryptocurrency, or they've got a fat retirement account or a fat bank account. In order to take over that bank account, if you control the phone, you control the account. So if they work with if they've got a T-Mobile account, or they don't even have to have a T-Mobile account, you simply have a T-Mobile insider there that will do a SIM swap, who will transfer that victim's number to a phone that you own. And then you can take over the account and do whatever you want to do. Okay. Here's another guy looking for, anybody got a Chase insider? There's the same one for T-Mobile again, and there's a snapshot of the T-Mobile account being taken over through a SIM swap. All right, so you've got all kinds. Let's see, this should be another insider as well. No, it's not. Let's see what we got here. Here's a guy looking for an Amazon insider. Here's a guy looking for Bank of America and Chase insiders. All drops, rush me same-day wire. So he's looking for a Chase or an insider over at Bank of America, and he's saying that, hey, if I can find an insider, we can do $45,000 wire transfers all day, every day. We're going to make a lot of money. So here's what's kind of interesting. When I was committing fraud, at that point in time, if you were looking for an insider, you had to get your ass out there and look for one. You had to find them on social media, through a company, through something like that, and you had to groom that person. You had to talk to that person, and you had to convince them to be an insider, okay? It's not working like that anymore. You see in these channels on Telegram that in the channel, they're advertising for them. What you're seeing right now is that insiders are actually out there looking for that type of profit. They're looking for access. They know where cyber criminals are. So they're coming to Telegram. They're going to the dark web on Dread. They're going to these Facebook groups, and they're saying, hey, I work at AT&T. I work at T-Mobile. I've got access. I can do this. What can we do? How can we profit? Or they're working at FedEx, or they're working at UPS, or they're working at Walmart, or they're working at these financial institutions. Am I getting my point across? That's what's going on with insiders right now. You're seeing this major shift of insiders who are now looking to profit. Instead of them having to be groomed and convinced to commit the crime, that's no longer the case. Now, they're already ready to go. They're just simply looking to partner with someone who will fulfill that need to put money in pocket. Okay? Interesting. So, I thought I would share that with you. Today's a sharing episode.
Today's the day when we're just kind of taking a tour of ideology, of all the insiders that are out there, and then finally, a bunch of the fucking idiots that are out there too. So I wanted to show you guys idiots that are out there. So here's the thing. I had a guy on my YouTube channel. He made a request. He asked me a question. He's like, hey, can you talk about how law enforcement identifies and targets some of the techniques that they use to identify and target online cyber criminals? And I was like, absolutely, I can do that. Well, the answer is it's not exactly rocket science. If you're looking at, say, Telegram, and I'm going to use Telegram as today's example, because Telegram is really the Wild West of cybercrime as we know it. Most cyber criminals are now using Telegram. Okay, and there's a few reasons for that. The main reason is that the dark web, that Tor browser, comes with a lot of friction. You have to know how to properly use that. If you don't know how to properly use it, you can be identified. And identified means your ass goes to prison. It gets a little bit worse than that. You figure that Tor operates on nodes. All right, so you've got entry nodes and exit nodes. Well, guess what? Law enforcement owns a whole shitload of those nodes. If you own enough nodes, you know who's coming in and when they're coming out, and you can identify the individual like that as well. So there's many different ways you can be identified using the regular dark web, that Tor browser. The problem is it's not only friction from that, but it's also friction because there's no search engine. You have to know the specific website that you're going to, that what that URL is. There's a lot of criminals out there that use dummy or like or similar copycat URLs to phish people and to steal their identities, to steal their cryptocurrency, any number of things. So you've got that type of friction that goes on. It's not this guy named Hugbutter builds this thing called Dread, which is the Reddit of the dark web, and it's a fantastic site. It truly is. Think of it as Reddit, except it handles everything that's criminal. All right. So he builds this, and as I've talked about in the past, you have to have some sort of communication channel in order for cybercrime to operate. You have to have that. If you don't know where to go to, or who you can trust, or what the tools are, what the targets are, who's going to jail and who's not, if you don't have some sort of communication channel to relay or gain that information to network with other criminals as well, you are not going to be very successful in your cybercrime career. So Hugbutter built Dread, and as a result, really, English-speaking cybercrime is now centralized in Dread. Well, the problem is that Dread, up until recently, it was down for several months. Before it actually shut down for several months, its search function had been removed because Dread was getting hit with a bunch of DDoS attacks. People want to send the son of a bitch to jail, everything else. So there was no place really on the dark web to gain a lot of information. Because of all these different types of friction that takes place on the traditional dark web, talking about what you have to use the Tor browser for, because of that, people have been looking for easier and easier access. Even go back to as far as, say, Alphabay and Hansa Market. When those two websites, those two dark web markets get shut down in 2017, that created so much paranoia using the traditional dark web that more experienced players started to look for smaller and smaller encrypted messaging services: Wicker, Telegram, Discord, Signal, WhatsApp, things like that. Telegram is almost entirely friction-free, meaning it's an app you can download to your phone. You can open it up on your browser, like I'm going to do here in just a minute as well. It has a search word function. You can create your own group very quickly. So it's almost friction-free. The only real friction that takes place on Telegram is that trust has not really been established on Telegram. They don't have a trust mechanism. And because of that, around 70% of every single thing that's advertised criminally on Telegram doesn't exist. It's simply a criminal ripping off other criminals, okay? It's also owned by a Russian, and this Russian is very anti-law enforcement. He does not answer any type of law enforcement subpoena request. Everything's encrypted on Telegram, so it's very friction-free. It's very user-friendly, and because of that, it starts out with most unskilled cyber criminals using it. But because of the problems with the Tor browser and things like that, now you're seeing more skilled players enter
that environment as well. Now, the reason I wanted to preface all of that, gentleman asked me, how is law enforcement identifying these people? So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go back over to Telegram, and we're going to talk about this. And I actually alluded to this earlier when I talked about that great schism with Russian-speaking cybercriminals and English-speaking cybercriminals, when they said, hey, these son of a bitches simply talk too much, talking about English-speaking people. So going through some of the stuff, and this is over, what channel is this? This is the Boulevard Sauce Marketplace. So you see, you've got a whole lot of people that they post receipts of their crimes. They post snapshots of some of the stuff they've stolen. There's some drugs. There's some food he's got from Buffalo Wild Wings or whatever the hell that place. Wingstop, I think is what it is. There's some account stuff that he's taking advantage of. Coming back in here. Hold on just a second. My dog is barking. I got to shut the damn thing up. All right, you'll please forgive me. I've got the producer of the show, the inspiration of the show, the director, the driving force, the muse of the Brett Johnson show is Daisy. You probably met Daisy on a previous episode. She is a Chihuahua mix who has a Napoleon complex. That being said, she's like a 25-pound Chihuahua mix. She is not small by any stretch of the imagination. She is violent behind a door. Once, person comes inside the door, she's friends with that person. But until that point, everyone and anything that she sees is her enemy. And she was barking at somebody that was going out, and some dad had his kid out. Very small young man that was, doing today's Sunday. They were doing door-to-door church stuff. And, I don't mind that, but hey, I'm trying to record a show here. Talk to me about Jesus later. I might listen to you. I might even know a little bit. We'll talk then. Not right now. Toodaloo. So I'm back. And what we were talking about was some of these idiots. And I was showing, share screen again so we can go through this again. I was showing the Boulevard Marketplace. Going through some of this, you see you've got a bunch of criminals. They post receipts. They post some of the account stuff. There's a guy selling marijuana. There's a guy who's hit Wingstop for wings, ranch sauce, and they're horrible. Anybody who's never eaten at Wingstop understand their fries are shit. Moving right along. But you get people who post some of the account stuff they've taken over. So here's a guy that's taking over an account. Here's a guy that's taking over this guy's account here. He even leaves his name up there. You've got a lot of stuff. There's somebody else's account that's been taken over. Somebody else's account's taken over. Somebody else's account's taken over. You've got tons and tons of stuff that's posted on English-speaking channels of criminals bragging about the crimes that they're committing. Now, there's a reason that happens, okay? Now, I've spoken in the past about how criminals are motivated by status, cash, and ideology. Remember the top of the show? Status, cash, ideology. Status. You're trying to impress your criminal peers, but here's what you need to understand. Most criminals these days have absolutely no real skill levels because the sophistication is no longer in the criminal. The sophistication is now in the platform, cybercrime as a service. So if you're trying to impress your criminal peers, how do you do that? Well, anyone who's seen these rappers online waving their fat stacks of cash, talking about, pandemic fraud or unemployment fraud or what have you, you impress your criminal peers by what you're able to do, the amount of money that you're stealing. Here you've got people that they're either talking about the success they're having at the crime, they're vouching for one of these sellers of criminal wares, or they are offering these criminal services themselves, and they're posting snapshots of the actual crimes that are being committed. Now, here's the issue with that. I talked about how the Russians and the non-English speaking way back in the day broke off from the English-speaking groups because they said, hey, these guys talk too fucking much. That's the issue. These guys talk too fucking much. So, yes, Telegram is encrypted. It absolutely is encrypted. You're not going to get their IP address. Their messages are encrypted. You're not going to identify the people if they keep their friggin' mouths shut. But English speakers like to talk a lot. So they post receipts. Well, you can pull cameras, you can pull IP addresses, you can get device information, you can start building an investigation on these people. Refunding fraud. Refunding fraud is one of the cornerstones of cybercrime right now. The problem is that a lot of people who are committing refunding fraud, it's very easy to identify these people because they're posting snapshots of what they're ordering. They're talking about what they're ordering. They're talking about when they ordered it, what they got, things like that. It's very easy to identify that order, identify the individual who did that, then track that individual down. It may just be the person, the individual themselves that's, hey, I'm not offering the service. I'm just paying some guy to do the refund for me. So you identify who that person is, you go interview that person, and then they tell you where they sent the money to some service that does the refunding for them. So it's very easy to identify that person. You've got people who offer Airbnb services, people who offer vacation services, people who will book a flight for you at 50% of whatever that retail price is through Airbnb, through Expedia, what have you. So think about that for a second. In order for you to get on a plane, you have to show driver's license, a real one. So you're paying some criminal 50%. He's booking you a stolen flight. You're getting on that plane using your real identity. Law enforcement knows exactly where your ass is sitting. Very easy to identify that individual. Very easy to start tracking that crime down. Very easy to start putting people in prison. So you're wondering, one of the primary techniques of identifying cyber criminals, well, it's OSINT, open source intelligence. These fucking idiots, remember the third segment, fucking idiots. These fucking idiots talk so damn much and for so long that it becomes very easy to start to identify who these people are. Gets even better than that. Let me show you this thing. This is fucking great. Actually, it's not, but hey, okay. So here we go. I'm going to share screen again because this gets kind of nifty all of a sudden when you start looking at this kind of stuff. So this is the Radiant Investment Group. You will notice 175 members, currently 91 online. So Radiant Investment Group is basically a bunch of cyber criminals who have their own group talking about how they should invest their criminal profits into cryptocurrency and things like that. So you've got people that are talking about this stuff. So you can imagine if law enforcement gets access to this channel, why wouldn't they? It's a public channel. They get access to this channel and they start paying attention to what all these different criminals are buying and investing and when they're investing and things like that. It becomes very, very easy at that point in time to start looking at the blockchain of the different types of tokens that they're talking about or the wallet addresses that they sometimes share and start to identify those criminals at that point in time as well. This is not rocket science at all. You get a lot of criminals, especially on Telegram, but it's not just Telegram, it's Dread, it's places like that. You got a lot of criminals that talk too much, they share too much. That is not just confined solely to cybercrime. One of the things that I found in prison, which blew my mind, is that a lot of criminals love to watch crime shows. Those reality crime shows like the Next 48, stuff like that. And the takeaway from all of that bullshit, you watch the Next 48, what do you see? They tell on themselves. They talk too much. That tends to be the way it is with most crime. The criminals talk too much. They don't know when to keep their mouths shut. Certainly like that in cybercrime. A lot of English speakers simply talk too much and they're able to be identified very quickly, or they're running some sort of service where it's very easy to identify those travel services, those refund services. It's very easy to start tracking down who those criminals are. And the big takeaway on that is that cybercrime, even though you've got millions, communities that are sometimes millions of members large, it's a very close-knit, very small group of people at the end of the day. Those really sophisticated people, it's surprising who knows who and the connections between those. So once you gain entry to those types of environments, things start to fall very quickly as far as the big players go. So that is today's show. ideology, insiders, and then the fucking idiots at the end of the day. You know, the big takeaway is if you're a criminal, keep your fucking mouth shut. Of course, you're not going to do that. That's the problem, right? You're not going to do that. My name is Brett Johnson. This is the Brett Johnson Show. What do we say? We say, stay safe out there, stay secure, and stay vigilant. More importantly, this is the Brett Johnson Show. We close every single show simply by saying, at the end of the day, just do the right damn thing. I'm Brett Johnson. Thank you for listening. Until next time.